Will, why do the Mets think that Manaea is going to bounce back this year?
Yeah, so whenever I had my conversations during the offseason, this was well before Freddie Peralta got traded over to the Mets, I would ask people within the Mets, what do you like about this group? Because it's kind of the same group that you're bringing back that struggled last year. And yeah, they said Nolan McClain, they said other guys. The answer that I kept getting back was Sean Manaea. And the main reason was he's healthy this time around, right? So they're looking for a key difference there between last year and this year. He battled multiple injuries last year. This year, he's coming fully healthy. He went to a facility in North Carolina, tried athletics, which is really good for pitching development. Got his whole body checked out, went over his mechanics. They switched his arm slot again, so it's kind of in between where it was the last 2 years, which is probably the sweet spot. And there's just a lot to like when you look at just his repertoire, what he was able to do that one season, like you mentioned, Sal, that put everybody on notice of how good this guy could be. So I believe in him as well, and he doesn't have to be that guy, though, right? He doesn't have to be that number one or that number two in this rotation. He just has to be a serviceable option in the back end at this point.
And let's say he does bounce back. How does that change your outlook on the Mets team?
I mean, it's huge, Sal, obviously, to have a guy who's got that level of talent, to have a big season for them is an enormous impact. Look, there are a lot of, I mean, I know we're all full of spring optimism. I know I am. But, I mean, there are a lot of question marks on the Met rotation. You know, not so much about Freddie Peralta, obviously, but Nolan McClain. Are there going to be workload issues? Other guys underperformed last year at certain points during the season. And, you know, do we know exactly what we're getting from the likes of Senga and Peterson, et cetera, et cetera? If Manaea were to become a reliable guy behind Peralta, behind McClain, you know, you assume, then that's a huge thing. Look, I mean, the guy had a terrible year last year. I know he was hurt. You're right, Will, but he was bad when he pitched. But he still struck guys out, and he still suppressed walks last year, which is very interesting to me because if he were pitching so badly and still doing that, he gave up a lot of home runs.
But he did show some signs of dominance, to your point. It was only like for an inning or two, but there were some signs of dominance.
Well, like first time through the order.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I mean,
it was first time through the order, but the stuff is good. The stuff is good for those two pitches. The Mets want that changeup, though, to be a more prominent part of that arsenal where it's not just the two pitches, and he could get to the second part of the order, or he could get to it second, third time through in a game, and that, to me, is the most critical thing. That's what I'm going to be watching during spring training when it comes to Sean Manaea.
So I'm so glad that you brought up 2 years ago, because if you look back on that 2024 season, all right, Lindor obviously worked his magic. You could go through the offensive heroes. One of the biggest reasons why the Mets found themselves in Game 6 of the NLCS is the fact that Sean Manaea was a revelation. He was so much fun to watch. He obviously transformed himself in the second half of that year, but big start after big start, this dude was showing up, and you guys spend a lot of time in the clubhouse. You see, he has the right demeanor. He has the right makeup to be able to handle pitching in New York. And I think that's super crucial going into this third year, where you may look at some other guys on the New York Mets and you say, are they cut out to pitch in New York? Can they handle a scrutiny? Can they handle a spotlight? I know Manaea can do all of those things. He's super accountable. He flat out gets it. And if he is the number 3 starter for this team, and Peralta is the goods, and McClain picks up right where he left off last year, Sal, the Mets cooking with gas.
Could be a huge, huge thing for that rotation. Not to mention Senga, who I don't necessarily trust, but the manager's saying he looks the best that he's ever looked. He's a guy that at one time was a high-end guy as well. The Mets have 2 guys in Manaea and Senga that both at their peak can be dominant ace-like pitchers. Could change everything for that rotation. Now that's anchored by Peralta and Nolan McClain. Here's a look at the Mets lineup for tonight against the Marlins. Just the 3 projected starters in there with Semien, Benj, and Alvarez. 1, 2, 3 in the order. Yeah, maybe A.J. Ealing get some good time there. Who knows? But anyway, there are a lot of players in the Mets projected opening day lineup that have high upside but also a low floor. Who do you think is the most intriguing Mets position player?
Well, this is, to me, Sal, it's Carson Benj, just because I sort of started the spring training process with this guy thinking, listen, pump the brakes here and start this guy in the minors. He's got, I think, 56 games above Brooklyn in his professional career. So what's the rush of getting him up there? And then, of course, we've seen him play in these games. And, you know, the other day he hit an opposite field home run off of a lefty. And I'm starting to think like, whoa, wait a minute here. He's very athletic. He's got a good approach at the plate. And so he's so intriguing to me, Sal, because he has forced me to back away a little bit from my own pronouncements. You know, you got to start in the minors. And
It's an early retreat for you.
It is, yeah.
I mean, you were dug in like a week ago.
I was dug in, and I'm still like, if they did it, I wouldn't be like, oh man, what are they doing? But I'm willing, I'm open to the possibilities here. That's how good he's been.
All right, you went with a good choice. I'm going to look at the guys hitting third in the order tonight. That's Francisco Alvarez, because Alvarez had this tumultuous season a year ago. He got off to the rocky start. They go and send him down to AAA, and when he returned from AAA, he started looking like the guy that was promised to Met fans. I want to remind everybody, there was a point in time where Francisco Alvarez was the #1 prospect in all of baseball. He has that sort of upside. He has that sort of potential. So when you're a catcher and you can go and hit 30 or 35 home runs, it completely transforms your lineup, because there aren't a whole lot of teams who are going to get that sort of prowess from the catching position. So I'm waiting to see it here, guys, with Alvarez. I've heard so much about him. I'm intrigued. Can he go and finally take that next step?
I love those two answers. They're probably the two right answers, but I like my guys as well. My guys are Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos as far as who is intriguing me this year. And I say those guys, they're 26 years old. I know you guys went in the direction as well of going with youth here, but these two are 26-year-old players who I think sometimes, to your point, JJ, sometimes we got to pump the brakes on the expectations when guys struggle right away, because they have a lot to figure out. This is a really, really tough game to play. And I love what Beatty did. I love more what he's talking about when he gets interviewed about the role that he's going to have this year. To me, he brought up Brendan Donovan when we were talking about guys who get playing time at different positions, and I just feel like that's the right attitude to take. When you're a young player, you have to be on board with that type of thing.